I was staring at my daughter's empty bed when the federal agents told me the truth. 7 military families slaughtered across 3 states, and the killer had been watching us for months. He knew my schedule. He knew my unit. He knew exactly when I'd be overseas and defenseless. But here's what made my blood turn to ice. 4 hours ago, he walked into my daughter's school field trip and took her.
This is getting serious.
And I didn't even know until it was too late.
Damn it, this can't be happening.
Subscribe for more betrayal twists, and comment where you're watching from, your city or your country. I'm Captain Victor Ashford, U.S. Army Rangers, 15 years in service. I've led missions in places most people can't pronounce, taken down threats most people will never know existed. They call me a hero.
This is getting serious.
They pin medals on my chest.
Damn it,
and
this
shake
can't
my
be
hand
happening.
at ceremonies. But none of that mattered when I opened my front door at 11:30 on a Tuesday night and saw 2 people I didn't want to see. A woman in a dark suit with a federal badge and a man beside her who looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Captain Ashford," the woman said. Her voice was calm, practiced. "I'm Special Agent Morgan, FBI. This is Agent Ryder. May we come in?" My wife Natalie appeared behind me, tying her robe. "Victor? What's going on?" I didn't answer her. I was reading Agent Morgan's face. I've interrogated enemy combatants. I know when someone is about to deliver devastating news. "It's about Ivy," Agent Morgan said. "My 8-year-old daughter. My entire world. She's missing." The words didn't land right away. They hung in the air like smoke, and for a second I thought I misheard. "Missing?" I repeated. "What do you mean missing?" Agent Ryder stepped forward. Her school group went to the Natural History Museum this afternoon. 42 children, 6 teachers, for parent volunteers. At approximately 2:15 p.m., during free exploration time in the dinosaur exhibit, Ivy was separated from her group. Teachers initiated lockdown protocol within 8 minutes. Museum security reviewed footage. A man in maintenance uniform led her out through a staff exit. Natalie's hand gripped my arm so hard her nails dug into my skin. "Oh my God. Oh my God, Victor. Why are we just hearing about this now?" My voice came out colder than I intended. "It's been 9 hours." Agent Morgan's expression tightened. "The school tried your emergency contacts. Your phone was off. I had been on a secured call with command. Debriefing from my last deployment. Standard protocol. Phones off. Secure line only. We tried your wife," she continued. "Her phone went to voicemail for 3 hours." I looked at Natalie. Her face had gone white. I had my phone on silent. I was at the gym. I didn't see. "Captain Ashford, we need you to come with us," Agent Morgan interrupted. "There's something else you need to know." I felt my training kick in. The part of me that shuts down emotion and operates on pure tactical thinking. "Tell me now." Agent Ryder opened a tablet and turned it toward me. Crime scene photos. A house, suburban, normal looking from the outside. Then interior shots that made my stomach turn. "This is the Morrison family. Staff Sergeant David Morrison, 75th Ranger Regiment. His wife, his 2 children. Killed in their home 6 weeks ago while Morrison was deployed in Syria. Clean entry. No signs of forced break-in, which means the killer had access codes or keys." He swiped to another set of photos. Different house, same horror. Captain Blake Hendricks, same unit. 3 months ago. Wife and daughter murdered while he was on a training exercise in Germany. Another swipe. Lieutenant Felix Grant. 5 months ago. I stared at the screen. I knew these names. I knew these men. We'd served together, bled together. 7 families total, Agent Morgan said quietly. All Rangers. All killed while the service member was away. And all of them. She paused. All of them were in your unit at some point over the last 5 years. The room tilted. Natalie made a choking sound behind me. "You're telling me someone is targeting my unit specifically?" "Yes." "And you think whoever killed these families took my daughter?" "We don't think, Captain. We know." Agent Ryder pulled up another image. Security footage from the museum, grainy but clear enough. A man in maintenance coveralls, average height, face partially obscured by a cap. And beside him, holding his hand like she trusted him, was Ivy, my little girl in her purple jacket and light-up sneakers. The pattern is consistent, Agent Morgan said. He studies his targets extensively, learns their routines, their security systems, their families. He's patient, methodical, and he's been watching you. For how long? We don't know. But Captain, there's something else. She hesitated. In every previous case, the families were killed within 72 hours of abduction. But with the children, her voice dropped. He keeps them longer. 9 days. Then we find them. Find them how? My voice sounded like gravel. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Natalie collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I wanted to go to her, but my legs wouldn't move. I was staring at the photo of Ivy, her hand in the killer's hand, walking away from everything safe. We have a task force, Agent Morgan continued. Behavioral analysis, tactical teams, surveillance. We're doing everything. It's not enough. I looked up at her. If he's been killing for months and you haven't caught him, it's not enough. Captain Ashford, I understand your frustration. Do you have children, Agent Morgan? Her jaw tightened. No. Then you don't understand anything. I moved past her toward my bedroom. I need 5 minutes. Victor, where are you going? Natalie's voice was shrill with panic. I didn't answer. I went to my closet, pulled out my go bag, the one I keep packed for emergency deployments. But I wasn't packing for a deployment. I was packing for a hunt. When I returned to the living room, Agent Morgan was standing with her arms crossed. Captain, I need you to understand something. You cannot go rogue on this. If you interfere with our investigation, I'm not interfering. I'm joining. That's not how this works. Then make it work. I stepped closer to her, and I saw her hand instinctively move toward her sidearm. That's my daughter. My little girl. And whoever took her knows me, knows my unit, knows how we operate. You need me. Agent Ryder exchanged a glance with Morgan. He's right. The killer's background suggests military training. Having Captain Ashford's insight could, fine. Morgan cut him off. But you follow our lead. You don't make moves without clearance. Understood. I nodded, but we both knew I was lying. They took us to a command center downtown, set up in a federal building. Screens everywhere, agents moving with quiet urgency. I saw the wall, photos of all 7 families, red strings connecting timelines, locations, patterns. And in the center, a blank space with Ivy's school photo pinned up. The newest victim. Agent Morgan handed me a thick file. Everything we have. Study it. If you see something we missed, speak up. I opened the file and started reading. Crime scene reports, autopsy findings, witness statements. My ranger training made me good at spotting patterns, anomalies, details others overlooked. And that's when I saw it. A small detail in the forensics report from the Morrison case. A partial boot print found outside the bedroom window. Military issue, size 11. The tread pattern was specific, Rangers. Standard deployment boots. I flipped to the Hendricks file. Same boot print. Different crime scene, same killer. My hands started shaking. Because I knew those boots. I'd issued hundreds of pairs to my unit over the years. The killer wasn't just targeting Rangers. The killer was a Ranger. Or had been. I looked up at the wall of victims, and my mind started racing through names, faces, men I'd served with, men I'd trained, men I'd disciplined or discharged. Someone with a grudge. Someone with skills. Someone who knew exactly how he operated. And someone who had my daughter. I closed the file and stood up. Agent Morgan looked at me. Captain, what is it? I need access to personnel records. Discharges, disciplinary actions. Anyone removed from the 75th in the last 5 years. That's classified. I have clearance. I pulled out my phone, already dialing my commanding officer. And I'm about to use every bit of it. Because I realized something that made my blood run cold. This wasn't random. This was personal. And somewhere out there, a ghost from my past had my daughter. My commanding officer, General Miller, answered on the second ring. His voice was gravelly, woken from sleep, but it sharpened the moment I spoke. Victor? What's wrong? General, I need a priority override. Full access to the personnel and discharge records for every man who has served in my command for the last 7 years. Psychological evaluations, disciplinary reports, everything. There was a pause. Son, that's a level of access I'd need a presidential order to grant. My daughter has been taken, I said, my voice flat, devoid of the panic raging inside me. The suspect is targeting our unit. I believe he's one of ours. Former or current. I need those files, sir. Now. I heard the rustle of sheets as he sat up in bed. Understood. The files will be decrypted and securely ported to Agent Morgan's terminal within the hour. You find the man who did this, Victor. You bring your girl home. The line went dead. Agent Morgan stared at me, a mixture of shock and grudging respect on her face. You don't mess around, do you, Captain? My daughter is missing. There's no time for messing around. For the next 4 hours, I operated like a machine. I didn't eat, didn't drink, didn't look at the clock. Natalie was in a side room with a grief counselor, her sobs a distant, muffled sound I forced myself to block out. My mission was clear: find the thread. The files flooded the system, hundreds of names, faces, and service records. I became the Ranger analyst I was trained to be, sifting through data, searching for the anomaly. I ignored the commendations and focused on the black marks. Arguments with superiors, failed psych evals, dishonorable discharges. Agent Ryder worked alongside me, his eyes red-rimmed with fatigue. Anything, he'd ask every 30 minutes. Not yet, I'd reply. The killer was smart. He knew our protocols, our blind spots. The official investigation was hitting brick walls. The security footage was a dead end. The man's face was never clear. The maintenance uniform was stolen. No fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses who saw anything but a man doing his job. He was a ghost. But ghosts leave traces. You just have to know where to look. I stopped looking at the personnel files and went back to the primary case files, the 7 murdered families. I spread the photos out, laid out the timelines, the locations. The FBI saw a randomness in the geography: Texas, then Georgia, then Washington. But I saw a pattern. They were all within a 2-hour drive of a major military base where Ranger battalions were stationed. He was moving with purpose. Then I looked at the dates of the abductions: March 17th, May 3rd, June 19th, August 5th. The FBI had logged them as random dates. But my mind, trained for precision and sequence, saw something else. I grabbed a calculator. March 17th to May 3rd, 47 days. May 3rd to June 19th, 47 days. June 19th to August 5th, 47 days. My heart hammered against my ribs. Morgan, I said, my voice low. Get over here. I showed her the dates. She frowned. Then her eyes widened as the realization hit her. He's on a schedule. A perfect 47-day cycle. Exactly, I said. He abducts, holds the child for 9 days, kills them, then waits out the rest of the 47-day cycle before choosing his next target. He's disciplined, patient. Ryder did the math from the last attack. The last victim was found 38 days ago. My blood ran cold. Which means he was due to strike again today. I finished for him. And he did. He took Ivy. The unspoken horror hung in the air. If the pattern held true, if he kept the children for 9 days before, I had 8 days left. 8 days to find a ghost. Agent Morgan's face was grim. This gives us a timeline, but it doesn't tell us who he is. No, I said, looking back at the files. But it tells me he's military. That kind of rigid adherence to a self-imposed schedule, it's ingrained in us. It's a mission parameter. I went back to the files, but my focus had shifted. I wasn't just looking for a disgruntled soldier anymore. I was looking for a planner, a strategist, someone meticulous and obsessive. And then I saw something else. It was a detail so small, so insignificant, that the initial investigators had glossed over it. In the file for Captain Blake Hendrick's family, The report noted that the alarm system had been disarmed remotely. The log showed it was done using the secondary user code, the one typically given to a spouse. In the Morrison case, a neighbor's security camera caught a glimpse of the wife letting the killer in the front door. In every single case, the killer didn't have to force his way in. He was invited, or he had access. The FBI's theory was that he was a predator who charmed his way in, seducing the lonely wives of deployed soldiers. It was a plausible theory, but it felt wrong. Too messy. Too many variables. My eyes drifted to the photo of Natalie on my phone's lock screen. She'd been distant lately, working late, secretive with her phone. I'd chalked it up to the stress of me being away, the loneliness of being a ranger's wife. But now, a cold, sickening thought wormed its way into my mind. Her phone going to voicemail for 3 hours after Ivy was taken. Her story about being at the gym, it felt thin. I pushed the thought away. It was unthinkable. Natalie loved Ivy more than life itself. She would never. She couldn't. But the seed of doubt was planted. The killer had been watching us. He knew my schedule. And in every other case, there was a sign of compromised access from within the home. I looked at Agent Morgan, who was busy coordinating teams based on the 47-day cycle. I didn't tell her what I'd found. Not yet. This was a thread I had to pull on my own. Because if my gut was right, this investigation wasn't just about a serial killer targeting my unit. It was about a betrayal so deep it would shatter my entire world. I walked out of the command center, telling Agent Morgan I needed fresh air. My chest felt tight, like I was wearing full combat gear in the desert heat. But I wasn't just needing air. I needed answers that the FBI couldn't give me. I drove home. The house was dark, still wrapped in police tape, a hollow shell where my family used to be. Natalie was still at the federal building with the grief counselors, which meant I had the place to myself. I didn't turn on the lights. I moved through the shadows, my footsteps silent on the hardwood floors. I went straight to our bedroom. Natalie's laptop was sitting on her vanity table, next to a framed photo of us from our wedding day. We looked so happy then, so oblivious. I booted it up. Password protected. I tried her birthday. Nothing. Ivy's birthday. Nothing. Our anniversary. Still locked. My heart sank. Natalie never used complex passwords. She was the woman who wrote them on sticky notes. But this was intentional security. I pulled an encrypted flash drive from my pocket, standard issue for field ops to bypass civilian OS security. I didn't want to do this. Every part of me screamed that I was violating my wife's privacy, that I was letting paranoia win. But then I remembered the empty bed in Ivy's room. I plugged the drive in. The screen flickered, code scrolling rapidly as the bypass worked. Within seconds, I was in. I didn't look at her photos or her shopping history. I went straight to the messaging apps. WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram. The ones people use when they don't want a paper trail. There it was. Signal. Locked behind another passcode, but my software cracked it in moments. My breath hitched. A single conversation thread, spanning 6 months. The contact name was just a letter, D. I opened the first message from 6 months ago. He's gone again. Another deployment. I can't keep doing this alone. The reply came quickly. You're not alone, Nat. I'm here. Anytime you need to talk. My stomach churned. It started innocent enough. Complaints about my absence, the stress of single parenting while I was away. But then the tone shifted. It became intimate, flirtatious, and then specific. 3 months ago, he installed a new security system before he left. Wants me to memorize this code. It's so complicated. D. Just send it to me. I'll help you remember it. Safety first, right? And she had sent it. My own wife had texted our home security code to a stranger. 2 months ago. Ivy has that field trip coming up. The museum. She's so excited, but I'm dreading the chaperone duty. D. Which museum? Maybe I can stop by and bring you coffee. Make the day go faster. Natalie, Natural History. Tuesday the 11th. We'll be in the dinosaur exhibit around 2 p.m. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The air left my lungs in a rush. She had given him the date, the location, the time. I scrolled down to the most recent messages from just yesterday. Natalie, I feel guilty, D. He loves her so much. Maybe we should stop. D. It's too late to stop now, baby. We're almost there. Just stick to the plan. Once he's out of the picture, we'll be free. I sat back in the chair, the glow of the screen illuminating my shaking hands. My wife wasn't just cheating on me. She had been feeding information to someone who wanted me out of the picture. Was D the killer? Was my wife's lover the man who took my daughter? A noise from the front door made me freeze. The sound of a key turning in the lock. I shut the laptop instantly, pulled the drive, and slipped into the shadows of the walk-in closet. The front door opened. Footsteps. Hesitant, quiet. Victor. It was Natalie. She must have gotten a ride back from the agents. I watched through the crack in the closet door as she walked into the bedroom. She didn't turn on the lights either. She went straight to the vanity, her hands trembling as she opened the laptop. She typed in her password, opened Signal, and typed a furious message. I couldn't see what she wrote, but I saw her face in the screen's reflection. She wasn't crying anymore. She looked terrified. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She answered it immediately, putting it to her ear, her voice a harsh whisper. You said you wouldn't hurt her. You said this was just to scare him, to make him quit the service so we could know. That wasn't the deal. She paced the room, running a hand through her hair. Don't lie to me. Where is she? If you touch one hair on her head. D, please. Please don't do this. She listened for a moment. Then her face crumbled. She sank onto the edge of the bed, the phone slipping from her fingers. Oh God, she whispered. What have I done? She knew. She knew who had Ivy. I had to use every ounce of my discipline not to burst out of that closet and shake the truth out of her. But I knew better. If I confronted her now, she might clam up, or worse, tip him off. D could panic and hurt Ivy. I needed to track him. I needed to find him before he knew I was onto him. I waited until she went into the bathroom to wash her face. I slipped out of the closet, silent as a ghost, and left the house through the back door. I sat in my truck down the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My wife had betrayed me in the worst way possible. She had opened the door to a monster. But now I had a lead. I had a name, D, and I had the digital trail on that flash drive. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number that wasn't in any official directory. A private contractor I'd worked with in Afghanistan. A guy who could trace a digital signal faster than the NSA. It's Ashford, I said when he answered. I have a signal log and a phone number. I need a location, a real name, and an address. 5 minutes. On it, Cap. I stared at my house, where my wife was currently weeping over the mess she'd helped create. The anger was a cold, hard knot in my chest. But I pushed it down. Rage was useless. Action was everything. My phone pinged. A map coordinate. A name. Dominic Walsh. I started the engine. The address led to a rundown apartment complex on the east side of the city, a place where people went to disappear. I parked 2 blocks away, blending into the shadows. My truck was nondescript, but my anger was loud enough to wake the dead. I forced it down. Cold. Tactical. I moved on foot, keeping to the alleyways. Dominic Walsh. The name didn't ring a bell, which bothered me. If he was targeting my unit, I should know him. I found his apartment, 2B. Second floor, corner unit. Lights were on. I didn't knock. I didn't kick the door in. I wasn't here to make an arrest. I was here for intel. I climbed the fire escape, moving silently metal rung by metal rung until I reached his window. The blinds were drawn, but there was a gap. I peered inside. The room was sparse. A cheap sofa, a TV playing static, and pizza boxes stacked on the coffee table. But one wall was covered in photos. My breath caught in my throat. It was us, my unit. There were photos of me, photos of Hendricks, photos of Morrison. Red X marks were drawn over the faces of the men who had already lost their families. And there, in the center, was a photo of me walking Ivy to school. A giant question mark was scrawled over my face. And sitting on the couch, cleaning a Glock 19, was a man. Younger than me, maybe late 20s. Dark hair, athletic build. Dominic. But he wasn't alone. He was on speakerphone. "She's panicking," Dominic said, his voice smooth, devoid of concern. "She called me crying. Thinks we're actually going to hurt the kid." A distorted voice answered from the phone. "Let her panic. Fear makes people predictable. Just keep her quiet. If she talks to Victor, we lose our leverage." "Victor is chasing his tail with the feds," Dominic laughed. "He thinks this is some random serial killer. He has no idea it's about the mission." "The mission? What mission?" "Just stick to the timeline," the voice on the phone commanded. "You have the girl at the secondary location?" "Yeah. She's secure. But she's asking for her dad. It's getting annoying." "Ignore it. 5 more days, Dominic. Then we finish the list. Victor is the last one. Once he's broken, once he knows he failed his daughter like he failed us, then we end him." "Failed us." My grip on the window sill tightened. This wasn't just about an affair. Natalie was a pawn. Dominic was a soldier in someone else's war. "Who is US?" I whispered to myself. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of Dominic through the gap in the blinds. Then I zoomed in on the phone lying on the table. The screen was lit up. I caught the last 4 digits of the number he was talking to, 8921. Dominic stood up, holstering his weapon. "I'm heading out to check on the package now. I'll call you when I'm back." "Don't be seen." The call ended. Dominic grabbed a jacket and headed for the door. He was going to Ivy. I didn't intercept him there. Too risky. If I took him down now, the partner on the phone might get spooked and disappear, or worse, order a kill on Ivy if he had a backup team. I had to follow him. I scrambled down the fire escape and made it back to my truck just as Dominic's gray sedan pulled out of the lot. I gave him 3 car lengths, driving with my lights off until we hit the main road. He drove for 40 minutes, heading out of the city toward the industrial district. Warehouses, shipping containers, abandoned factories. The perfect place to hide a child. He pulled into a fenced-off lot behind an old textile factory. I killed my engine and watched from a distance through my night vision binoculars. Dominic got out of the car. He didn't go inside immediately. He waited. 5 minutes later, a black SUV rolled up. The window rolled down. I adjusted the focus on my binoculars. The driver of the SUV leaned out. The street lamp overhead cast a harsh yellow light on his face. I froze. The binoculars nearly slipped from my hands. I knew that face. It was older, scarred, the eyes harder than I remembered, but there was no mistaking him. Quentin Harlow. 5 years ago, Quentin was a sergeant in my platoon. A brilliant tactician, but a loose cannon. He disobeyed a direct order during a raid in Syria, causing civilian casualties. I was the one who wrote the report. I was the one who testified at his court-martial. I was the one who stripped him of his rank and got him dishonorably discharged. He swore he'd kill me that day. As the MPs dragged him out of the courtroom, he screamed that I had ruined his life, that I didn't understand loyalty. I thought he was just another angry, disgraced soldier. I never imagined he would spend 5 years planning a revenge this elaborate. Quentin, I breathed. He was the mastermind. Dominic was the muscle. Probably some recruit Quentin had brainwashed or hired. They spoke for a minute. Then Quentin handed Dominic a bag, food, supplies. Dominic nodded and walked toward the factory entrance. Quentin stayed in the SUV, scanning the perimeter. I had a choice. I could call in the cavalry, Agent Morgan, the SWAT team. They could surround the place. But if Quentin saw flashing lights, if he sensed a siege, he'd kill Ivy before they even breached the door. He had nothing to lose. No, this had to be surgical. I watched Quentin drive away. He was leaving Dominic to guard Ivy. Perfect. I waited until the taillights of the SUV disappeared. Then I reached into the back of my truck and pulled out my gear. Suppressed pistol. Tactical knife. Flashbangs. I wasn't going in as a father. I wasn't going in as a husband. I was going in as a ranger. I crept toward the factory, moving through the shadows like smoke. I found a side entrance, The lock rusted. I picked it in 10 seconds. Inside, the air smelled of oil and dust. I heard footsteps on the metal catwalk above. Dominic. I moved deeper into the darkness. I needed to isolate him, disarm him, and make him tell me everything about Quentin's plan before I put a bullet in his leg. But as I moved, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A single vibration. I glanced at the screen. A text from Natalie. Victor, where are you? The FBI found something. They say the killer is someone we know. Please come home. I'm scared. I stared at the message. She was scared? Good. I put the phone away. I'd deal with her later. Right now, there was only the man on the catwalk and the little girl waiting in the dark. I took a breath, steadied my aim, and began to climb the stairs. The factory floor was a graveyard of silent machinery. I moved between rusted looms, my suppressed pistol held ready. Above me, Dominic paced on the catwalk, his silhouette a dark shape against the grimy skylights. He was waiting. For Quentin to call? For a shift change? It didn't matter. I found the stairs and ascended, my boots making no sound on the grated metal. He was at the far end, looking down at the entrance he'd used, keeping watch. He was sloppy, overconfident. He never thought to check behind him. I was 10 feet away when he finally sensed something was wrong. He started to turn, his hand reaching for his Glock. He was too slow. I closed the distance in 2 strides. I didn't shoot. A gunshot, even suppressed, could be heard. I drove my shoulder into his back, slamming him against the railing. The air whooshed out of his lungs. Before he could recover, I had his gun arm twisted behind his back, my knife at his throat. Drop it, I hissed in his ear. The Glock clattered to the catwalk. He gasped, trying to struggle, but I applied pressure to the artery in his neck. His body went limp. Who are you? He choked out. I'm the last man on your list, I said. Where is she? Where is my daughter? He laughed, a dry, ragged sound. You're him. Victor. Quentin said you were good. I didn't think you were this good. I'm going to ask you one more time. Where is Ivy? I pressed the cold steel of the knife just enough to draw a bead of blood. She's not here, he spat. You think Quentin is an amateur? You think he'd keep his leverage in the first place you'd look? This was a supply drop. That's all. My blood ran cold. The factory was a decoy. A piece on the chessboard to keep me occupied. Where is he keeping her? I demanded. I don't know, Dominic smirked. He moves her every 12 hours. Paranoia is a side effect of being smarter than everyone else. Only he knows the location. He'll contact me when it's time to move again. You're lying. Am I? He taunted. Go ahead. Kill me. You'll never find her. Quentin will know I'm compromised and she'll be gone. You'll never see her again. He was right. I couldn't kill him, but I didn't have to. I slammed his head against the railing. He grunted, dazed. I zip-tied his hands and feet, gagged him with a piece of his own shirt, and dragged him into a dark corner. I took his phone and his wallet. He wouldn't be going anywhere. I made an anonymous 911 call from his phone, reporting a break-in and assault at the factory, then crushed the phone under my heel. The local cops would find him, but by the time they figured out who he was, I'd be miles ahead. I drove back to the FBI command center, my mind racing. I had a name, a motive, and a second conspirator in custody, but I was no closer to finding Ivy. I strode past the agents and straight to Agent Morgan's desk, dropping Dominic's wallet on her files. Dominic Walsh. He's Quentin Harlow's partner. I just left him gift-wrapped for the local PD at a factory on the east side. Morgan stared at me, then at the wallet. You did what? Victor, I told you. He was meeting with Quentin. Quentin Harlow. Sergeant. Dishonorably discharged from my unit 5 years ago on my recommendation. This is his revenge. I slid the photo I took of Quentin in the SUV across the desk. He's the one who took Ivy. Dominic was just the errand boy. The whole room went quiet. Morgan studied the photo, then my face. You're sure? I'm positive. Within minutes, the task force was buzzing. Quentin Harlow's face was on every screen. They pulled his records, his last known address, his known associates. Dominic's real identity was confirmed. Everything I said was lining up. A team was dispatched to Quentin's apartment. I went with them. We kicked in the door to find exactly what I expected. Nothing. The place was professionally wiped. No fingerprints, no hard drives, no stray hairs. The only thing left behind was a single photograph on the floor, face down. I picked it up. It was a picture of Quentin's platoon. My platoon. My face was in the center, smiling. His face, standing in the back, was burned out with a cigarette. He knew we were coming. Someone tipped him off. The leak wasn't just a theory anymore. It was a fact. My gut told me to trust no one. I drove home, the weight of the betrayal pressing down on me. I had to face Natalie. When I walked in, she rushed to me, her face stained with tears. "Victor," they told me. "They think it's someone from your past. Do you know who?" I looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of the truth. All I saw was fear. Was it fear for Ivy? Or fear of being caught? "They have a name," I said, my voice flat. "Quentin Harlow." Her face went blank. I don't know that name." She was a good liar, but not good enough. "I'm going to get some rest," I said, pulling away from her. "It's been a long night." I went into our bedroom and closed the door. She thought I was sleeping. She was wrong. I was working. I took a micro recorder from my gear, a tiny bug no bigger than a button, and planted it under the lip of the nightstand. Then I lay on the bed, closed my eyes, and listened. An hour passed. 2. The only sound was the house groaning around us. Then I heard it through the earpiece. The quiet beep of her phone, a muffled sob, and then her voice, a desperate whisper. "He knows. Victor knows it's Quentin. The FBI is looking for him." She paused, listening. "What do you mean, stick to the plan?" "He took my daughter. I didn't sign up for this. I thought he just wanted to scare Victor into leaving the army. That was the deal. You promised me she wouldn't be hurt." Her voice broke into a heart-wrenching sob. This wasn't the plan. I lay there in the darkness, my heart turning to stone. It was all true. She was a pawn, a fool, a traitor. She hadn't known the full extent of Quentin's madness, but she had opened the door and let him in. She had traded our daughter's safety for a fantasy. And now, she was my only link to getting Ivy back. The morning light crawled into the bedroom, gray and unforgiving. I hadn't slept. I'd spent the last 6 hours listening to my wife's panicked pacing and replaying the recording of her phone call in my head. I didn't sign up for this. I thought he just wanted to scare Victor. Scare me? By kidnapping my 8-year-old? By murdering my friends? The level of her naivety was almost as terrifying as the betrayal itself. I waited until she went downstairs to make coffee. I could hear the clink of the pot, the familiar morning ritual that felt perverse now. We were play-acting normalcy in a house built on lies. I checked the front porch. Nothing. Just the morning paper and a flyer for a lawn service. But as I turned to go back inside, I saw it. Tucked behind the potted fern near the door was a small, brown padded envelope. No postage. No return address. Just my name written in block letters. V. Ashford. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed it, checking for wires or strange bulges. It felt solid. Safe enough. I slipped it into my jacket pocket and went straight to my home office, locking the door behind me. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a black USB drive and a single strip of purple ribbon. Ivy's ribbon, the one she wore in her hair for the field trip. My hands shook as I plugged the drive into my secure laptop. A single video file. I clicked play. The screen was dark for a moment, then illuminated by a harsh, single bulb. Ivy was sitting on a small cot in a windowless room. She looked pale, her eyes red and puffy, but she was alive. She wasn't bound. She was holding a piece of paper with trembling hands. "Read it," a voice said from behind the camera. Quentin's voice. Calm. Authoritative. Ivy sniffled, looking directly into the lens. "Daddy, the man says you know what you did. He says you destroyed his life." She paused to wipe her nose with her sleeve. "He says you took his honor away. He wants you to feel what he felt when he lost everything." She looked up at the camera, fear etched into her small face. Daddy, please come get me. I want to go home. The camera panned away from her, turning to reveal Quentin's face. He looked directly at me, a cold smile playing on his lips. Hello, Victor. Remember me? He leaned in closer, his eyes dead and flat. You took my career. You took my rank. You branded me a failure. So I studied you. I watched you climb the ladder while I scraped by in the dirt. I waited, and I found the perfect way to take everything from you. He laughed, a chilling sound that made the hair on my arms stand up. But here's the twist, brother. I'm not working alone. You're a smart man, Victor. You've probably figured out by now that your fortress had a gatekeeper. Someone you trust gave me the keys to your kingdom. He held up a finger. 47 days. That's the cycle. You know the math. Ivy has 4 days left. But I'm feeling generous. I'll give you a chance to say goodbye. But you have to earn it. The screen went black. I sat there, staring at my reflection in the dark monitor. For days. That was the deadline. But earn it. What kind of game was he playing? I copied the video to a secure cloud server, then pulled the drive. I had to show Morgan. But first, I had to deal with the gatekeeper. I walked into the kitchen. Natalie was staring into her coffee mug, her face pale. She jumped when I entered. Victor, did you sleep? No. I placed the purple ribbon on the table between us. She stared at it, her eyes widening. She reached out a shaking hand, but pulled back. Is that Ivy's? I said. It came with a video. From Quentin. She looked up at me, terror flooding her eyes. Is she okay? She's alive. For now. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the table. He says someone helped him. Someone on the inside. Someone who gave him the keys. Natalie's breath hitched. She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. That's crazy. Why would anyone help a monster like that? You tell me, Natalie. She froze. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Tell you what, she whispered. I pulled out my phone and played the audio recording from the night before. Her voice, tinny but clear, filled the kitchen. I thought he just wanted to scare Victor. That was the deal. Her face crumbled. The cup slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor, hot coffee splashing across the tiles. She didn't even flinch. Victor, please, let me explain. Explain? My voice was dangerously quiet. Explain how you handed our daughter to a psychopath. Explain how you gave him the codes to our home, to our lives. She fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. I didn't know. I swear to God. Victor, I didn't know he was a killer. Dominic. He was so kind. He listened to me. He said he worked for a private security firm. He said you were dangerous, that the army had made you unstable. He said if we could just scare you, make you leave the service, we could be a family again. Or I could leave you safely. You believed him? I roared, slamming my fist on the table. You believed a stranger over your husband? I was lonely. You were always gone. I didn't know who you were anymore. She looked up at me, her face a mask of misery. He used me, Victor. He played me. He played us all, I said, my anger turning into cold resolve. And now he has Ivy. I walked over to her, grabbing her arm and pulling her up. Stop crying. Tears won't save her. You want to fix this? You want to earn forgiveness. She nodded frantically, wiping her eyes. Anything. I'll do anything. Good. I held up the phone. Because you're going to call him. You're going to call Dominic. And you're going to set a trap. But Dominic, he's in jail, isn't he? Not yet. I lied. He's still out there. And he thinks you're still on his side. I didn't tell her I had already neutralized Dominic. I needed her to believe she was contacting him, to reach out through whatever backup channel they had established. If Quentin was monitoring Dominic's communications, or if there was a third player I didn't know about, this was the way to flush them out. What do I do? She asked, her voice trembling. You tell him you're leaving me, that you can't take the pressure anymore. You tell him you want to meet. Tonight. And then, I said, checking the load in my pistol, I finished this. The kitchen felt like a war room now. The shattered coffee mug was still on the floor, a jagged reminder of how broken we were. Natalie sat at the table, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline, or maybe a grenade. "Do it," I ordered. She dialed a number I hadn't seen before, a burner line she'd saved under a fake name. It rang once, twice. "He might not answer," she whispered, panic rising in her voice. "If he knows you're on to him, he'll answer. He needs to know if I've cracked. Put it on speaker." The line clicked. "Nat." The voice wasn't Dominic's. It was deeper, rougher. "Quentin." My blood turned to ice. Dominic was out of play, and Quentin had taken over his comms. He was monitoring everything. Natalie looked at me, eyes wide with terror. I signaled her to stick to the script. "Dominic isn't answering," she stammered, her voice shaking perfectly. "Who is this?" "Dominic is unavailable," Quentin said smoothly. "But I can help you." "You sound upset, Natalie." "I can't do this anymore," she cried into the phone. "Victor found a ribbon. He's tearing the house apart. He's talking about bringing in his old unit, going off the grid. I'm scared. I need to get out before this turns into a war zone." Silence on the other end. He was weighing her words, assessing the threat. "You want out?" Quentin asked. "Yes. I want to leave. I want to go to my sister's in Oregon, but I need to know Ivy is safe first. I can't leave if I don't know." "She's fine," Quentin said, his voice dropping an octave. "But leaving now, that's risky. Victor will notice." "He's not noticing anything. He's obsessed with the files. He hasn't looked at me in 2 days. Please, just tell me where to meet you. I need money. I need a car." Dominic promised he'd help me if things got bad. Another pause. Longer this time. "Meet me at the old shipyard. Warehouse 4. Midnight. Come alone. If I see even a shadow of a tail, Natalie, you'll never see your daughter again. And neither will Victor." The line went dead. Natalie dropped the phone and put her head in her hands. Did he believe me? "He's desperate," I said, holstering my weapon. "He lost his partner. He's running out of time. He took the bait. But I wasn't going to let her go alone. And I wasn't going to play by his rules." I spent the next few hours prepping. I called Agent Morgan, but not to ask for backup. I needed something else. "I need a geofence on the shipyard district," I told her. "But I don't want any agents on the ground. No sirens. No raids. Victor, if you have a lead, I have a meeting. If you send in the cavalry, he'll spook. I need you to have a medical evac team on standby at the perimeter, 5 miles out. Do not move until I give the signal." "You're using your wife as bait," Morgan realized. Her voice was filled with disapproval. "I'm using the only asset I have left." I hung up. I turned to Natalie. She was dressed in dark clothes, looking like a ghost of the woman I married. "You wear this," I said, handing her a small pendant necklace. It was a tracker and a high-gain microphone. "And you wear this." I handed her a Kevlar vest, thin enough to wear under her jacket. "Victor, what if he shoots me?" "He won't shoot you," I said, though I couldn't be 100% sure. "He needs you. You're his trophy, proof that he corrupted my life. Killing you now would be a waste." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time since the truth came out. "But if things go south, drop to the ground. Don't run. Just drop." She nodded, tears streaming down her face again. "I'm so sorry, Victor. I ruined everything." "We can talk about that later," I said, turning away. "Right now, we have a mission." We took separate cars. She drove her SUV. I took my truck, parking it a mile away and moving in on foot through the drainage tunnels I knew from training exercises years ago. The shipyard was a labyrinth of rust and shadows. I reached Warehouse 4 20 minutes before midnight. I climbed to the catwalks, high above the main floor, settling into the darkness like a bat. At midnight, Natalie's SUV rolled in. Her headlights cut through the gloom, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. She got out, clutching her purse, looking small and terrified in the vast, empty space. "Hello," she called out. Her voice echoed. From the shadows of a shipping container, a figure emerged. Quentin. He was holding a remote detonator in one hand and a pistol in the other. He didn't look like the soldier I remembered. He looked hollowed out, consumed by his own hatred. "You came," he said, smiling. "Brave girl. Where is she?" Natalie demanded, her voice stronger than I expected. "Where is Ivy?" Impatience, Quentin tooted. "Just like your husband. Always wanting the objective before the briefing." He circled her, keeping his distance. "You know, Natalie, you were the easy part. A lonely wife, a deployed husband, it's a cliché. But you played your part beautifully." "I want to see her," Natalie insisted. "Then I'll leave. I'll disappear. I won't tell Victor anything." "Oh, but you already told him, didn't you?" Quentin stopped circling. His eyes narrowed. "I can smell him, Natalie. He's here." My finger tightened on the trigger of my rifle. He knew. "Victor!" Quentin shouted, his voice booming through the warehouse. "Come out, brother, or I blow this place, and your wife, to hell." He held up the detonator. His thumb hovered over the button. I was trapped. If I shot him, his hand might spasm and trigger the explosives. If I stayed hidden, he'd kill Natalie just to draw me out. I stood up on the catwalk, letting the light catch me. "I'm here, Quentin." He looked up, his grin widening. There he is, the hero, high above us all, just like always. "Let her go," I said calmly. "This is between us." "It's between all of us," he screamed, his composure cracking. "You think this is just about a discharge? You think this is just about a career?" He pointed the gun at Natalie's head. "Your report didn't just end my service, Victor. It killed my sister." I froze. "What?" "Lisa," he yelled. "She lost her security clearance because of my discharge. She was blacklisted. She had to take a contract job in Yemen just to pay the bills. And she died there, in the dirt. Because of you." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I didn't know. I had no idea. "I'm sorry about your sister," I said. "But Ivy has nothing to do with that. She has everything to do with it." Quentin roared. "A daughter for a sister. That's the price. That's the balance." He looked at Natalie, then back at me. "But I'm not done yet." He pressed a button on the detonator. I braced for an explosion. But instead, a massive screen on the wall flickered to life. It was a live feed. Ivy. But she wasn't in a room anymore. She was in a wooden box. Buried. Only her face was visible through a small plexiglass window, illuminated by a dim light. "She has 2 hours of air left, Victor," Quentin sneered. "And the only person who knows where she's buried is me." The image on the screen burned into my retinas. My daughter, trapped in a coffin-sized box, gasping for thin air. The terror in her eyes was raw, primal. 2 hours, Quentin repeated, his voice echoing off the corrugated metal walls. "Assuming she doesn't panic and hyperventilate. Then it's maybe 40 minutes. I looked down at him from the catwalk. The distance was 40 feet. I could make the shot. I could put a bullet right between his eyes. But if I did, the location of that box died with him. Natalie was staring at the screen, her hands covering her mouth, a silent scream trapped in her throat. Then she turned to Quentin, and something in her snapped. "You monster!" she shrieked, launching herself at him. "Natalie, get down!" I yelled. She didn't listen. She clawed at his face, desperate, feral. Quentin stumbled back, surprised by her ferocity. The detonator skittered across the concrete floor. But he was a trained soldier. He recovered instantly, driving a knee into her stomach. Natalie collapsed, gasping for air. Quentin raised his pistol, aiming it at the back of her head. I didn't think. I reacted. I vaulted over the railing, dropping 40 feet. I hit a stack of pallets on the way down to break the fall, rolling as I hit the concrete. My ankles screamed in protest, but adrenaline masked the pain. Quentin spun around, firing wild. A bullet sparked off the floor inches from my face. I returned fire, aiming for his shoulder, his leg, anything to disable him without killing him. He ducked behind a forklift, laughing. Still the hero, saving the cheating wife. "You're pathetic, Victor." I moved tactically, flanking him. "Tell me where she is, Quentin, or I swear to God I will peel the skin off your bones." "You'll never find her," he shouted back. She's buried in the earth, just like Lisa, just like my career. I saw a shadow move. He was trying to circle back to the detonator. I sprinted, sliding across the slick floor, and kicked the detonator away just as his hand reached for it. He roared and tackled me. We hit the ground hard. His pistol clattered away. It was hand-to-hand now, Ranger against Ranger. He was younger, faster, but I was fueled by a rage he couldn't comprehend. He threw a punch that rocked my jaw, tasting copper. I countered with a strike to his ribs, feeling bone crack. "Where is she?" I grunted, getting him in a chokehold. He wheezed, thrashing. "Go to hell." He reached for a hidden blade in his boot. I saw the glint of steel. I twisted his wrist, hearing a snap. He screamed, dropping the knife. I slammed his head against the concrete, pinning him down. "The coordinates. Give me the coordinates." He looked up at me, blood streaming from his nose, a manic grin on his face. "Tick-tock, Captain. Tick-tock." Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. Quentin's body jerked beneath me. His eyes went wide. I looked up. Natalie was standing there, holding his fallen pistol with both hands. She was shaking violently, smoke drifting from the barrel. She had shot him in the leg. "Tell him," she screamed. "Tell him where my daughter is." Quentin groaned, clutching his thigh. The pain had broken his mania. He looked at Natalie, then at me. He saw the look in our eyes. We were past negotiation. We were past mercy. The old mining outpost, he gasped, his voice ragged with pain. "Blackwood Ridge, north side of the mountain." "Specifics," I yelled, pressing my forearm against his throat. "Coordinate. 45.2 by 112.8. Under the old water tower. There's a ventilation pipe." I checked my watch. 1 hour and 10 minutes left. The ridge was 40 minutes away. I hauled Quentin to his feet, zip-tying his hands behind his back. I wasn't leaving him here. He was my insurance. "Natalie, can you drive?" She nodded, wiping tears and dirt from her face. She looked broken, but she was still standing. "Get in the truck. We're going." I dragged Quentin to the passenger side and shoved him in. Natalie jumped in the back. I peeled out of the warehouse, tires screeching, leaving the echoes of the fight behind us. The drive was a blur of speed and terror. I pushed the truck to its limit, weaving through traffic, running red lights. Every second that ticked by was a breath stolen from my daughter. "Is she really there?" Natalie asked from the back seat, her voice trembling. "She better be," I growled, glancing at Quentin. He was pale, losing blood, but conscious. "If she dies," Quentin whispered, staring out the window, "you'll know how it feels to be empty." "Shut up," I said. "If she dies, you won't live long enough to enjoy it." We hit the mountain road. It was winding, treacherous in the dark. I didn't slow down. "Victor, the time!" Natalie cried, looking at her phone. 50 minutes had passed. We had maybe 20 minutes of air left. We reached the old mining outpost. It was a desolate place, abandoned structures rotting in the moonlight. I saw the water tower, a rusted skeleton against the sky. I slammed on the brakes. "Natalie, stay with him. Keep the gun on him. If he moves, shoot the other leg." I grabbed a shovel from the truck bed and sprinted toward the tower. "Ivy! Ivy!" I screamed her name. Silence. I reached the base of the tower. The ground was disturbed, fresh dirt packed down. And there, sticking up just a few inches, was a PVC pipe. The ventilation. I dropped to my knees and put my ear to the pipe. "Daddy." The voice was faint, weak. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." I choked out, tears blurring my vision. "I'm going to get you out." I started digging. I dug with the shovel, throwing dirt wildly. When the shovel hit a rock, I threw it aside and dug with my hands. I tore my fingernails, my skin, but I didn't feel it. "Hold on, Ivy. Just breathe slow." I hit wood. The top of the box. I found it. I yelled. I pried at the lid, my fingers bleeding. It was nailed shut. I needed a pry bar. I didn't have one. I grabbed a large rock and smashed it against the wood, again and again, screaming with every strike. The wood splintered. I ripped it away, and there she was. She was curled in a ball, her face pale blue in the moonlight. Her eyes were closed. Ivy. I reached in and pulled her out. She was limp in my arms. No, no, no. Ivy, breathe. Breathe. I laid her on the ground and started CPR. Chest compressions. Breath. Chest compressions. Breath. Come on, baby. Come on. Natalie was running up the hill now, leaving Quentin in the truck. She fell to her knees beside us. Is she? Oh God, is she? 1, 2, 3, 4. I counted, pumping her small chest. Nothing. Don't you dare leave me. I whispered. Don't you dare. I gave her another breath. And then, a cough. A gasp. Her little body shuddered. She sucked in air, a ragged, desperate sound. Her eyes fluttered open. Daddy. I collapsed over her, pulling her against my chest, burying my face in her hair. I've got you. I've got you. Natalie wrapped her arms around both of us, sobbing uncontrollably. We stayed like that for a moment, a tangle of limbs and tears on the cold dirt. We were broken, battered, and scarred. But we were alive. But the nightmare wasn't over. A shadow fell over us. I looked up. Quentin was standing there. He had limped up the hill, trailing blood. And in his hand, he held the pistol Natalie had left in the truck. He raised it, aiming directly at Ivy. I told you, he rasped, his eyes empty. The list must be completed. Time fractured into slow motion. Quentin's finger tightened on the trigger. Ivy was cradled against my chest, her small body still gasping for air. I couldn't move fast enough to shield her. I couldn't reach my weapon. But Natalie could. She lunged forward, throwing herself between Quentin and Ivy. The gun fired. The sound was deafening. Natalie's body jerked backward, her face twisted in shock. She collapsed onto the dirt, clutching her shoulder. Mom! Ivy screamed. Quentin stumbled, his wounded leg giving out. The recoil had unbalanced him. He fell to one knee, trying to steady the gun for another shot. I didn't hesitate. I drew my sidearm and fired once. The bullet hit him center mass. He dropped the gun, his hands going to his chest. He looked at me with wide, confused eyes, as if he couldn't believe this was how it ended. You didn't save them, he whispered, blood bubbling at his lips. You couldn't save anyone. He collapsed face first into the dirt. I kicked his weapon away and checked his pulse. Nothing. Quentin Harlow was dead. I turned to Natalie. She was pale, bleeding heavily from her shoulder, but alive. Ivy was crying, clutching her mother's uninjured arm. You're okay, I told Natalie, ripping off my jacket and pressing it against the wound. You're going to be okay. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. For everything. I'm so sorry. Save your strength, I said, pulling out my phone. We're getting you out of here. I called Agent Morgan. I need that evac now. Blackwood Ridge. North Side. 1 gunshot victim. 1 child suffering from oxygen deprivation. Send medical. On the way, Morgan replied. And Victor? Is the suspect? Dead, I said flatly. It's over. Within 15 minutes, helicopters roared overhead. Paramedics swarmed the scene, stabilizing Natalie and checking Ivy's vitals. They wrapped my daughter in a thermal blanket and carried her to the helicopter. I climbed in beside her, holding her hand. I'm not leaving you, I whispered. Never again. She squeezed my hand weakly. I knew you'd find me, Daddy. The ride to the hospital was a blur. Ivy was rushed into emergency care for observation. The doctors said she'd be okay. Her oxygen levels were low, but there was no permanent damage. She was a fighter. Natalie was taken into surgery for her shoulder. The bullet had missed major arteries, but the damage was significant. She'd recover, physically at least. I sat in the waiting room, numb. My hands were still covered in dirt and blood. An officer offered me a towel. I declined. Agent Morgan arrived an hour later, her expression unreadable. She sat beside me in silence for a moment. You did good, Captain, she finally said. You got your daughter back. You stopped a killer. I should have stopped him years ago, I replied. I should have seen what he was capable of. You can't predict evil, Morgan said. You did your duty. You reported his misconduct. What came after? That's on him, not you. I didn't respond. My mind was replaying every decision, every moment that led to this. Quentin's sister dying. The family's murdered. Ivy buried alive. All because of a report I wrote. Morgan stood. There will be an investigation. Internal affairs will want statements. But for tonight, be with your daughter. She left. I sat there for another hour before a nurse told me Ivy was awake and asking for me. I walked into her room. She was propped up in bed, looking small and fragile in the oversized hospital gown. But when she saw me, her face lit up. Daddy. I sat on the edge of the bed and pulled her into a careful hug. She wrapped her arms around my neck and didn't let go. I was so scared, she whispered. I know, baby. But you were so brave. So brave. She pulled back, looking at me with her mother's eyes. Is Mom okay? She's going to be fine, I said. She's going to be just fine. And the bad man. I hesitated. He's gone. He can't hurt you anymore. She nodded, satisfied. She lay back against the pillow, exhaustion overtaking her. Within minutes, she was asleep. I sat there watching her breathe, the steady rise and fall of her chest, the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Hours later, Natalie was wheeled into recovery. I went to her room. She was awake, groggy from the anesthesia. When she saw me, fresh tears filled her eyes. Victor, don't, I said. Not now. I need to say it, she insisted. I need you to know. I would have taken that bullet 1,000 times. For her. For you. I looked at her for a long moment. You did take it. And that's something. But it doesn't erase what happened. She nodded, understanding. What happens now? Now. I exhaled slowly. You heal. Ivy heals. And we figure out what comes next. Will you leave? I don't know, I admitted. But right now, I'm staying. For Ivy. She closed her eyes, more tears slipping down her cheeks. Thank you. The legal process moved faster than healing ever could. With Dominic's full confession, the case was airtight. He received 25 years for his role in the conspiracy. Quentin was buried in an unmarked grave, his name already fading into the dark corners of history. Natalie faced charges as an accomplice, but her testimony against Dominic, coupled with the fact that she took a bullet to save our daughter, swayed the judge. She received probation and mandatory counseling. But the court of law was nothing compared to the silence in our home. We didn't divorce right away. We tried. For Ivy's sake, we tried. But every time I looked at Natalie, I saw the betrayal. I saw the weakness that had almost cost us everything. And she saw the judgment in my eyes, no matter how hard I tried to hide it. Eventually, we agreed it was better to be apart. She moved to a small apartment across town. Ivy stays with me on weekdays and her mom on weekends. It's not the family Ivy deserved, but it's a safe one. And after everything she's been through, safety is the only currency that matters. I retired from the Rangers. The decision wasn't hard. When General Miller asked why, I just showed him a picture of Ivy's graduation from elementary school. I've fought enough wars, I told him. My only mission now is her. The nightmares still come sometimes. Ivy wakes up screaming about boxes and dark rooms. But I'm there. Every single time. I hold her until the shaking stops. Until she remembers she's in her bed, safe and sound. I started a foundation for the families of fallen soldiers, specifically for those targeted by violence at home. We provide security upgrades, counseling, and support networks. I named it the Ashford Initiative. It's my way of making sure no other father has to dig his child out of the ground. Tonight, I'm sitting on the porch, watching Ivy catch fireflies in the yard. She's laughing. That sound. It's better than any medal I ever earned. It's the sound of victory. Natalie pulled up in the driveway to drop off Ivy's backpack she forgot. She didn't get out of the car, just waved. I waved back. There's no hate anymore. Just a quiet, sad understanding that some things, once broken, can never be fully put back together. But we survive. That's what soldiers do. That's what families do. I called Ivy over. She ran up the steps, breathless and glowing. Did you catch one, Daddy? I caught the best one, I said, pulling her into a hug. I caught you. She hugged me back, burying her face in my shoulder. I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. Always. As I looked out at the quiet street, I realized that my war was finally over. The enemy was gone. The mission was complete. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't Captain Ashford. I was just Victor. I was just Dad. And that was enough. Is forgiveness possible after a betrayal this deep? Or are some lines crossed that can never be uncrossed? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And hey, before you go, I'd love to know where in the world you're tuning in from. Drop your city or country in the comments. It's amazing to see how far these stories travel. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing. It helps us bring more of these emotional thrillers to life for you. Also, I want to write stories that you want to hear. So tell me, what kind of themes or plots are you craving next? More military revenge? Family secrets? Underdog justice? Let me know, and I'll craft the next epic tale just for you. Until then, take care of yourselves and hold your loved ones close. See you in the next story. Story finished.